What's going on, Jab Jab Talk Nation? It's your boy Ozil. It's good to be back in front of the camera, behind the microphone. I'm actually testing out this microphone. Let me know how it sounds on your end. This is what I use for my podcast. It's just a different kind of podcast that I'm doing outside of Jab Jab Talk, which is part of the reason why I haven't been able to create much content here on this channel, because I've been working on a podcast and also produce podcasts, and I'm in the media industry. So I've been really, really busy with work, but this big fight happening next Saturday, September 30th. I'm excited. I was inspired to get in front of the camera, to get with my Jab Jab Talk folks. I miss you. I hope you're doing well. And, I had no choice but to talk about this I want to say long awaited, because this was kind of a bit of a surprise with this fight against Charlo, Canelo and Charlo. Everybody was not expecting this fight. Came out of nowhere. Here we are. Jermell Charlo, the undisputed at 154, jumping up 2 weight classes to fight Saul Canelo Alvarez. It's going down. It's happening, y'all. And I just had to get in front of the camera and talk about it. So let's talk about it. All right. So I want to share my thoughts on this fight between Canelo and Charlo. And I want to hear also what you think about. What are your predictions? What do you think about the fight? What are your predictions? What's going to happen? Here's the thing. Charlo hasn't fought in over a year. He's moving up 2 weight classes. His last fight against Castaño, he won by knockout. It was an impressive win. And here we are fighting the undisputed at 168. Now, here we are. Canelo, he's won his last 2 fights. Won against Triple G. He beat Ryder. Caught a lot of flack for not looking good on that performance, although he dominated John Ryder, took him out, not in the old school Canelo fashion, but he dominated and took him out nonetheless. And here we are against a young, hungry lion in Charlo. And I got to admit, as a boxing fan, I'm excited for this fight. I'm really, really looking forward to this fight. The Charlo-Canelo combination, that fight has been talked about for quite some time. I was watching a couple other channels and some interviews, and apparently they were talking about this, at 160, a couple years ago. And, Canelo ended up moving up weight, and, he jumped to 160, 168, did his thing there. So Canelo has been on his path, and now he went to 175, came back down. So Canelo has been doing his thing, as well as the Charlo brothers. And, now we have, Jermell Charlo. Now, Canelo signed a deal at PBC, got a 3-fight deal. Charlo got the nod, and why not? Why not Charlo? I mean, he has been inactive, but when you get the call for a fight against Canelo, a big payday, you're going to say yes. And he's answering the call. So much respect, first off, to Jermell Charlo for taking on the fight. And I've been watching on YouTube some of the predictions and what other experts are talking. And it sounds like, a lot of the boxing experts, the betting man or woman, they're picking Canelo for this fight. And some are giving Jermell Charlo a chance due to some really key factors, which we'll talk about. So what are my thoughts on this fight? Okay, well, My thoughts on this fight is Canelo, if this fight, if come I think this fight's gonna come down to one thing. And people are saying, whether or not, who wants it more or not. Yes, we know that. We know that the hungrier lion is gonna ultimately win the fight, right? And then there's styles and all that. But I think in regards to this particular fight and seeing Charlo's last fights and watching him at 154 and then seeing him go up a couple weight classes and then with the layoff, etc. Those are important variables. And I think those are going to be shown and seen on, they're going to be shown at the day of the fight. I think he's going to feel it. He's going to feel the layoff. As an athlete, when you're not active, even though he's sparring, it's different when you take off the gear and you're in the ring and fighting one of the most talented champions out there. So I think when it comes to this fight, my friends, I think it's going to come down to if whether or not Canelo allows himself to lose. I think it's ultimately down to Canelo. And let me elaborate on that. What I mean by that is, on paper and looking at this, Charlo going up 2 weight class again, lay off all those variables. But even if you look at Charlo's style, yes, he is the more athletic boxer, but he does stand. He has that lion mentality. What I love about Charlo is that he's a go getter. Like, he likes to get grimy in there. He will get in the trenches and he will go toe to toe. He is not like your typical, boxer where he's using feints and he's moving in lateral move. He's not really that type of boxer. I think if he were to be that style boxer, kind of like a Trout, but I believe this Charlo has more pop, more power. I think it definitely imposes a challenge, a major challenge for Canelo. But we're not going to get that from him, Charlo. And I'm pretty sure he's getting coached by Derek James, and he's going to get coached to move and box and take a page off of what Bivol did, his playbook in fighting with 1-1-2-2 and keep getting, just using the jab, using lateral movements, getting Canelo's respect early on. Yes, those are going to be key, but I do feel that Canelo's experience, Canelo's IQ, and his experience fighting different style boxers. I mean, he's fought all types of boxers, heavy hitters, tall fighters, heavier fighters at 175. If you look at his resume, he's fought all types, slick fighters, the Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he's been exposed to a ton of fighters. So I think that ring IQ definitely goes to Canelo. And that's why I feel ultimately that if Canelo loses this fight, it's going to come down to Canelo just not being Canelo. But I feel like if he shows up at 90-95%, my prediction is I don't see Charlo beating Canelo. I do feel like Canelo in the late rounds, 9th, 10th, will wear down Charlo. I think the layoff, we're going to see it, and he's going to get fatigued. And I think that pressure that Canelo brings to the ring will eventually catch up to Charlo, and Canelo will take him out. I think Canelo does win by a knockout. And does Charlo have a chance? Absolutely. Again, if Canelo doesn't show up, I do feel like Charlo's boxing abilities, his ability, to be athletic, he is a big fighter, but he hasn't fought that competition where he's fought like the 175ers or even at 168. Remember, this is his first fight at 168. Canelo, this is his natural weight. And, Canelo hits like a Mack truck. And, even though Charlo is tall, and big, but in size, he's not a big, massive body. Excuse me, like Canelo. So I do see early on Charlo making it, having some spurts. I do see, Charlo bringing in that energy, using the jab. I think it's going to be key to keep Canelo off. And it's going to be interesting as boxing fans to see how Canelo makes his adjustments. Will we see Canelo making adjustments like he did with Daniel Jacobs, with the head movement? Lately, we haven't been seeing that Canelo. If you look at him with Ryder and even Triple G, he was definitely head on, very minimal head movement, and then just one, and just, he just unloaded on them. And one can say that he just relied on his counters, which, is one of his, strengths, but also he relied on his power, and his power is undeniable. Like, when he lands, whether he hits you on the hips, shoulders, or makes full contact, he's going to hurt you. And I think that's going to be ultimately the X factor. I think Canelo knows that. I think we'll see Canelo try to bully Charlo, and try to just do little minimal things early on to just pound the body, pound the shoulders, and to really try to do some damage to him physically. Because Canelo knows going into this fight that probably in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, we're going to see that 1 year layoff, that fatigue needs kind of come in. And we have seen people talk about Canelo, showing fatigue, and we definitely, there's truth to that. But also Charlo, we'll see Charlo, even though he sustains himself, he also, we see him tire out. We saw against Castano, which I thought he lost the first fight. The second fight, of course, he got the win. But we got to see how a pressure fighter can bring it, land some pretty big shots, and ultimately win that fight against Charlo. Again, because Charlo he doesn't faint. He's not one of those where he'll faint much. He's a dog. He'll get in there and mix it up with you. So I think when, people say styles makes fights, yeah, I just think when it comes to that style in particular, what Charlo brings, I think it's tailor-made for Canelo. I don't think Canelo should have a problem at 168 against somebody who's moving up 2 weight classes and wants to mix it up with him. I just don't. Now, are we going to be in for a surprise where we're going to see a different style of Charlo? We may, and I think we'll see it for the first few rounds. That's why I think in the beginning it's going to be very tricky, and I think it's going to be a chess match, and I do feel like Charlo will try to fight in spurts. But I think we're going to see Canelo land some big ones, and I think that if he lands a few big shots, I think what could happen here, this is my prediction. Charlo in the first, 1 to 2, 3 rounds will make it interesting. He'll do his spurts, and he'll do his jab, and he'll try to, dog it out and try to get Canelo's respect. But I think within those rounds, I think Canelo will tag him here and there, right? And I think by the 4th, 5th round, I think we're going to see Charlo retreat a little bit. Because what happens is the only way you're going to beat Canelo is that if you show him no respect and really take it to him like Bivol did, the boom, 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 1, 2, 3, combination. But he pushed Canelo back. But Bivol's style, his defense, his size, his boxing abilities are a lot. They're different from Charlo. Charlo doesn't have those skill sets. Is the Charlo athletic? Is he talented? Can he punch? Yeah. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that punching power transfers to 168. Because Charlo is that type of dog where if he lands a shot and hurts you, he'll finish you off. He has no problems getting in there, getting dirty, and finishing his opponents. So can Charlo get Canelo to respect him? Can Charlo hurt him with some shots? We know Canelo is taking the biggest shots from Bivol to, 175, Sergey and Triple G 3 times. So we know he's been into some major wars and he's fought some heavy hands. But does Charlo have enough pop to make it interesting? And again, if it's boxing, anything could happen. But, on paper and from what I see, I don't see Charlo beating Canelo. I really don't. Now, if he beats Canelo, I do feel like it's just Canelo just not having, you know, corazon, the will, the passion for boxing. Now he's looking good. He's looking good in training. I've been watching his interviews and he seems like he's back. His injury healed up and he's at 100%, which makes this fight really exciting. We're going to see 100% Canelo. We're going to see 100% Charlo, and Charlo's motivated for his own reasons. And then we have Canelo, who's motivated, and he has a chip on his shoulder. And I think, that type of fighter is pretty dangerous because he's going to go into this fight wanting to prove like, okay, I had Triple G, which was, kind of the fight that you guys wanted, and he gave it to us. And the press was calling for it, and he really didn't want it. He gave it to him. And I think there was maybe some lack of motivation there. And then we saw Ryder, and we felt like, there was a little bit of motivation because he was fighting in his country, but I felt like the level component, he kind of fought down to it. He did enough to dominate, but didn't do, anything spectacular. But now, Jab Jab Talk Nation, he's fighting a big, notable name that's undisputed in that the world is saying, okay, what can Canelo do against a world-renowned, notable champion? And he happens to be undisputed. So it's going to be really interesting to see what type of Canelo we see. Are we going to see the reemergence of the Canelo to be like, all right, he's back? Or are we going to see like a decline of what the critics have been saying, that he's been slowing down? So it's going to be, again, goes back to what I was saying early on. If Canelo loses this fight, it's going to be on Canelo, period. Like, it's going to be on Canelo. This ultimately comes down to Canelo. If he's at 90, 95, 100%, forget about it. There's no way. But if Charlo fights a smart fight, hurts and earns the respect of Canelo early on, and can box a little and use that jab, it could be an interesting night for Charlo, and we could possibly see an upset. So I'm not going to completely say that Charlo doesn't have a chance. He does have a chance, but he only has a chance if Canelo doesn't show up. That's it. That's my prediction. So let me know, Jab Jab Talk Nation, what you think about this upcoming fight with Canelo and Charlo. Let me know in the comments section down below. I know I've been quiet a bit. I apologize. I've been working on different projects, as I mentioned earlier, but there's some really, really good fights happening in boxing. It's been a great year in boxing. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Benavidez and Bubu Andrade in November. Can't think of the date. Let me know. But it's been a great year for boxing, and I think we're going to see some really, really good fights moving forward. So I haven't gone anywhere. I'm very passionate about boxing, of course, and any opportunity I get to talk. I can't cover all the fights, frankly, because I'm juggling way too many, too many things on my life. But I'm very passionate about this community, and I miss, vibing with you guys. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you like, what I'm sharing here, I'll be doing a lot more shorts for sure. So be on the lookout for that. And then, just continue building the community. I still want to build to 100 subs. I mean, we get 100 subs, let's go. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm just a casual boxing fan that loves the sport and loves covering some of the big fights. And this Saturday, we're going to see a big fight, September 30th, against Saul Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo, Lions only. Let's go. Let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the notification button to stay updated. And thank you so much for watching this video. Stay in touch. We'll see you soon. Peace.